JR Rieger of the Rieger Report. Today I'm with Robert Kane, CEO of Bondview, who recently made an announcement about reference data in the municipal bond space, and I'm glad to have him on here to talk more about that. Welcome to the Rieger Report, Robert.
Good morning, JR. It's always good to see you and to be
Good
back.
to have you. Good to have you back. Hey, Robert, I saw that announcement on the reference data for the municipal bond marketplace. Can you take a big step back and tell us why is Bondview attempting to collect data on this huge marketplace, and why now?
Sure, be happy to. Why we're doing it and why now is because actually Bondview has been doing municipal bond data analysis, portfolio analysis for more than 10 years. So during that time, we've collected a huge amount of data for the 1.5 million muni bonds that exist currently, as well as the 7+ muni bonds that have matured over time. So we have an enormous repository of info, and we've made that available generally through our website interface, which is bondview.com. And if you know municipal bonds, you probably know Bondview. We get lots of people that come to our site on a daily basis, but they're limited in terms of what access they can get through interacting with a website. So if you have a portfolio manager or someone that's monitoring muni bond credits, or someone that wants a lot of information about 1,000 or 10,000 bonds, it's hard to do that for the website. So what we did was we gathered up all this data and made it available through like an Excel spreadsheet or an API. So that's kind of what we're offering and more or less how we got into it.
And when you use the term reference data, can you tell us a little bit more about what that actually entails? What does your service cover now?
Sure. So reference data for us, so I'm from New York. So sometimes instead of saying data, I will say DATER, like data. But reference data refers to everything from the name of a bond, and it's some of its descriptive information like its maturity, coupon, call date, last trade. So there's a set of static reference data that doesn't really change, and then there's reference data that does change that we've added into Bondview. For instance, like we have an evaluated estimated pricing engine, so you could put in a bond identifier like a CUSIP or a Bloomberg ID, or you could search for a bond. We can tell you what it's actually worth. And so that's part of the reference data, as well as trade data. So trade history, ratings, information. So Bondview has its own rating service, so not S&P's rating, but different, but similar as well. We also have credit data. So Bondview offers COVID ratings based upon what impact the COVID pandemic has had on particular issuers, like stadiums and malls have been hit very hard because no one's going there any longer. And so some of those bonds are down significant amounts. And then we also have tied in fund holdings. There's 2,400 muni bond funds, and they all hold bonds. We've tied that into our reference data as well. So there's a pretty large menu that we offer.
Can you do a demonstration of what data
Sure.
is available? I think that'll help visualize it.
Okay, so from Bondview's main page, which is here, right? This is bondview.com. We have a lot of different information. As you scroll down, you can get to some details about Bondview's reference data. So you can download a guide, but basically, there is no more need for complicated databases. And a question some people ask is, how do people get this data now? I mean, there are other sources, right? There's a few sources out there in the industry. There's large players like Merchant and ICE and Bloomberg. Those are probably the primary players, and they have great product offerings. What we pride ourselves on is we focus only on municipal bonds, and our product is easy and quick to gain access to. It's not complicated. There's no like long contract processes you have to go through. So that's a big benefit, is that we're easy to work with because we're smaller and more nimble. So here's some specific info about the categories of information that we offer, right? So bond descriptive data, which I generally think of as not only static information, like I mentioned. So for instance, here's a bond. This is a New York Liberty Development bond of 2051. Its coupon is 5.75%. And then as you scroll down, we have other info here about the bond, including its estimated price, which is here, links to official statements and disclosures, the top holdings by funds. There's 56 other mutual funds that own this bond, and this is the amounts that they own. And as you go deeper down the list, there's more information about the bond, including disclosures and pricing, our credit score. So anyway, there's a lot of information here, and this is all available in our reference data info. We use industry standard identifiers. So if you have a list of bond names or bond standard identifiers, you can provide those, and we can feed back to you the data in different formats. So yeah, I mean, again, you could look at our data through the web, or you can use an API, application programming interface is what that stands for, spreadsheet. And let me give you another example. This is the Bondview 500 Liquid Municipal Bond Index. This is an index that we've created that tracks the most liquid and widely held muni bonds on a daily basis. So this is the list. I've sorted it by the number. This particular bond is held in 57 funds over here on a number of funds holdings. And what we did for one client is we used the bond. They're interested in the Bondview 500. Open up a spreadsheet here. We made this available in a spreadsheet format. So this is that Bondview 500 index, and you can see some of the the info in their identifiers like Bloomberg FIGI, which is their version of a identifier or a CUSIP. There's a price, which is our estimated price. I'll zoom in a little bit here. There's the name of the bond, right? There's the coupon, and you can, as you scroll across, some of this stuff is pretty standard, but then we start to get into what I call the value-added reference data, which we're showing that in this case, this is the 90-day trading volume of this bond out there in the world, how much outstanding there is, how many funds hold this bond in terms of dollar amount, how many funds hold that, what percentage of the bond is owned by funds, in this case 45% across 11 different funds, and then some sector information, state, right, that's California, it's a sanitation bond, the amount for sale, original offering price. So I just wanted to show you this because reference data means different things to different people. I mean, if a client provides us 10,000 CUSIPs and we just spit them back, 10,000 bonds with some basic data, that's one view. Another is a value-added view like this. Some folks are interested in things, more specific, like call date information. When's the next call date and at what price? That's important in determining things. We have that level of info as well. We've got about 150 or so data points.
And how do you tackle the ratings question? You include the Bondview rating in the data feed itself? Yeah, we include the Bondview rating in the data feed itself. So Bondview has, and just jump back to here. I'll say this is one of those bonds. This is the Bondview market rating, which is a 4 out of 5 stars, which is an excellent rating. It has to do, there's a methodology on how we come up with this rating, but that's as opposed to it's the COVID rating, which is also included in the reference data, is kind of the opposite. This is bonds that have that are impacted by the COVID pandemic in various ways due to what business they're in or their sector. Like for instance, New York's Yankee Stadium, no one's going there any longer, and there's no business to be had at this moment in time. So a Yankee Stadium bond is not a great investment probably at this point. But yeah, those ratings are included. Those ratings are different than S&P and Moody's and Fitch ratings. Those are not included. Yeah. So who are the potential users for this data set, both either through a universe of municipal bonds or a portfolio perspective? How do you envision the user base to be?
The user base is from the lower end of the world market out there. There are corporations that are not in the muni bond business, that are not really focused on by the industry, like that they do have sizable bond portfolios. Sometimes there's small banks or corporations that have pension funds that want to dive deeper. They want to get an independent view of their portfolio from someone other than their broker. And that's a customer that Bondview has worked with quite a bit in general, and some of those folks do want data. There are folks that look at credit of bonds and risk of bonds on a regular basis. They work in lots of different companies, including funds or anybody that holds muni bonds. And then there's also, I suppose, you could, at a higher level, the industry of reference data, there's a bit of a disruption happening, which is also why we launched this product now. And that there's been a consolidation in the number of vendors that offer reference data. There are fewer of them. Some of the companies that have been acquired in that space are now selling data to competitors, and some of those competitors are a little uneasy about that. And so there's an opportunity to look for an additional reference data providers, in our opinion.
And just before we sign off, where does all this data come from?
So we've been doing this about 12 years. So we've collected a lot of data in that time, enormous historical repository. And but in answer specifically to your question, is the data comes from the official statements from bond issuers, as well as various public sources that have made information available. So, I think 20 years ago, this business was one, the reference data business was basically, there was some high hurdles to get involved in this space, a large moat, if you will. That's changed because of the nature of data being so much more able to be digitally harvested, if I can use that term. There's more information available in the public in multiple places. Sometimes the same data element is available in 10 different places out there. So basically we harvest that data, we look at official statements, we use parsing, using artificial intelligence to read through documents. And that's pretty much how we do it.
Yeah, Robert, I like that you combine the static data with what's not static, the market depth data, the market related pricing data, all in one feed, so that the consumer can not only understand the sector and structural characteristics of the security, but also look at it from the perspective of the liquidity and how the market is treating that security in today's environment.
Right, and that's what we aim to do. Is we try and provide not just data. We want to provide valuable information that we're up a step above raw data, and that was a great summary of what we do, JR.
My portfolio is probably not in the size that you would worry about, but I could take my list of identifiers and send them to you and get that snapshot. And I think that for me, a small guy out in the marketplace, I like that potential ability to capture that data and put it to work in my process. So, Robert, I appreciate you jumping on for an interview about this. It is a new development for munis to have somebody else enter the market. The market has been closed for quite some time because of the three predominant providers really dominate the space.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. And by the way, financial advisors are a big part of the user population of Bondview. I think just to reference that, we don't only want to work with larger and small players, but financial advisors are really the sweet spot. We have lots of those folks, so that's part of your audience.
Yep. Thanks again for joining me, Robert.
My pleasure. Thanks, JR.
This has been a Rieger Report interview with Robert Kane, CEO of Bondview. For more information about the bond markets, please join me on LinkedIn or my website, straighttalkaboutbonds.com.